Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another video from the Draw Step. Today we have a brand new commander deck, and this one really takes the whole structure of commander and kind of turns it on its head, because normally when you build a deck, you want to take a really strong commander, build a deck around it, you don't want anybody touching your stuff, and you want to just, cause chaos there. Well, with this particular commander, we are going to be handing out our commander like candy on Halloween. The commander we're working with today comes from the Assassin's Creed set, and it is 4 mana in mono red for Alexios, Deimos of Kosmos. He's a 4/4 with trample, and his ability says Alexios attacks each combat if able. He can't be sacrificed and can't attack its owner. So at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player gains control of Alexios, untaps it, puts a 1/1 counter on it, and it gains haste until end of turn. This is the full art version of the card, but again, basically what is happening is every trip around the board, even on your opponent's turn, each turn, Alexios is getting larger. He can't attack you. Your opponents can't just sacrifice him to get value out of it. No, they have to take him, punch each other in the face until it gets back to your turn, and then you get to choose who you want to punch in the face. This is basically like the saying sharing is caring. Really doesn't apply to both Alexios and herpes. Those are the two things where you don't want either of those things, especially if you're an opponent, that is. Now, Alexios is definitely a kind of out of the box. There's not too many other Alexios decks out there, but I think that with the right build, he is going to be very strong and win you a lot of games. So let's get into the deck. First and foremost, I have 3 Planeswalkers in this deck, which, yes, probably overkill, but heck, why not? Just do it. So the first one we have Tybalt Rakish Instigator. He does have a minus ability that can create a creature, but the biggest thing is his static ability, which says your opponents can't gain life. Love it. Jessica, Thrice Reborn, 3 mana. And it starts with 0 loyalty counters, but enters the battlefield with a loyalty counter on it for each time you've cast your commander from the command zone. Your opponents are going to realize very quickly that they don't enjoy getting punched in the face with Alexios, so they're probably going to want to try to destroy him. So depending on when you get this down, this could be quite large just with having to recast your commander multiple times. But its main ability that we care about is its 0 ability. Target creature, choose target creature until your next turn. If that creature would deal combat damage to one of your opponents, it deals triple that damage to that player instead. Again, note the key words there, until your next turn. So that means you smack an opponent for triple damage, then your opponent takes it and smacks another opponent for triple damage, and then that opponent smacks that opponent for triple damage. So this is not just helping you, this is helping your opponents to take out your opponents even faster. That is huge. This is a very aggro deck. This is trying to be as quick as possible, and we have a lot of equipment in it, which we will get to in a second, but even without the equipment, Alexios is constantly growing, constantly doing extra damage, so we want to try and speed that up as much as possible. Last but not least, we have Koth, Fire of Resistance. It has a couple different abilities. Its finality one is fine, but the main thing is that its +2 ability allows you to search for a mountain. So red obviously is not great at ramping, so being able to use your Planeswalker there to get some more mountains, make sure you're hitting your land drops, that's key. For enchantments, our first one is Blacksmith's Talent, which by the end of it, its final level, it gives equipped creatures you control double strike. Great. Again, giving Alexios, making him hit for even more when he connects. Footfall Crater, you can enchant a land, and when you tap it, it can give a creature trample and haste. Depending on the circumstance, that can be good for if you just brought out Alexios, make sure he swings right away. Destructive Urge, 3 mana for this. Every time Alexios connects, when he's enchanted with that, he is going to destroy that opponent, one of your opponent's lands. So that may be unpopular. You are probably not going to win yourself any friends by destroying an opponent's land every time you punch them in the face, but they kind of asked for it. They agreed to play Commander with you, so blame them. And last but not least, Erentry? I really don't know how to pronounce things. I build nasty decks. I don't learn how to pronounce things. That's on me. But for 2 mana, enchant creature. What it says is target creature gets +3/+0. If that creature attacks, no other creatures can attack this turn. This is pretty janky, and in most decks, I would say don't ever run this because you are kind of hamstringing yourself. Yes, you are making Alexios a little bit larger, but you're only really able to attack with him, which again, we're kind of building a Voltron-esque type deck, so it's not the end of the world if we're only attacking with Alexios. Where it really matters is when you then pass Alexios over to one of your opponents, say they have a token deck, they have built a massive board state, they have a giant army. Well, now they are forced to only attack with Alexios and attack one of your opponents. So now that massive board that they have, it's doing them no good. Their tokens are just sitting there doing nothing because they are stuck only attacking with Alexios. That is huge. That is beautiful. Chef's kiss for janky cards. Moving right along, we have our artifacts. First, Smoke Bomb has flash, also from the Assassin's Creed set. It'll protect all of your creatures or give them Shroud, so if your opponent's trying to do target removal to get rid of Alexios, you can drop that, give it protection, and on the start of your next turn, you have to sacrifice it, but it makes Alexios unblockable, which win, 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 win. Trading Posts, 4 mana to lay, but it gives you a lot of flexibility and value throughout the game depending on what you really need to get done. It has a couple different modes that you can work with. For our ramp package, we have Wayfarer's Bauble, again, giving us a way to get an extra red, or an extra land in mono red. Throne of Eldraine, it's 5 mana. You choose a color, obviously you're going to choose red. 5 mana for a mana rock is a pretty hefty price. However, it's giving you 4 of that color. So in a lot of decks, I would not recommend this, but for a mono red deck, that's huge value. That is absurd value. That's going to add up over time, getting that 4 red out of it, and you can use it to draw cards too, so that's a pretty solid piece for a mono red deck. Everflowing Chalice, depending on when you play this in the game and how much mana you can put into that kicker cost, that can produce you quite a bit of mana. Commander Sphere, and Mind Stone for 2 mana, 1 colorless. And last but not least, for our ramp package, we have Soul Ring, because I think every deck should have a Soul Ring. If you disagree, let me know in the comments. Next, like I said, we do have quite a few equipment in this deck. Our first one is Excalibur Sword of Eden, 12 mana, which is nutty high. Way too high for an equipment. However, you're never going to pay that cost because it says spells cost, or this spell costs X less to cast, where X is a total mana value of historic permanents you control. Even if just Alexios is out, that's already 4 mana off the cost of this. So you have a bunch of other equipment, you have other legendary creatures. This is going to cost quite a bit less. In fact, it's quite possible, depending on when this comes out in the game, you could probably lay it for free, pay 2 to equip it, and now equipped creature gets +10/+0 and has vigilance. That's massive. That coupled even just with Alexios raw power, giving him double strike, like you could take out an opponent in a hit or two, so that's huge. Speaking of double strike, we have Two-Handed Axe, which is an adventure. The instant says target creature you control gains double strike until end of turn, and then the actual equipment part of it is whenever equipped creature attacks, double its power until end of turn. That's a nice bit, instead of just being double strike, doubling its power, because again, it has trample, so we can slam through for quite a bit, but then you can put it in conjunction with something else that does give you double strike, so now it's even more powerful than it was before. 3 mana for the Spear of Leonis, I give up. Figure it out for yourself. Whenever a equipped creature attacks, choose one. Either it gains double strike until end of turn, you can create a legendary 3/2 red horse creature token, or you can discard 2 cards and draw 2 cards. So giving you flexibility on an equipment, there's not a lot of that out there. So most of the time you're probably going to do the double strike unless you want to rummage or get a horse for some reason. Dark Steel Plate, 3 mana, it's indestructible, and it gives that creature indestructible. You want to protect Alexios. Alexios is going to become prime enemy #1 pretty quickly when your opponents realize, hey, getting hit with 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 damage each turn, that's not very fun. So making him indestructible, huge. Black Blade Reforged gets +1/+1 for each land you control. So again, he's getting progressively stronger each turn, just from his own ability and from you laying lands. Gorgon Flail for 2 mana. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has Death Touch. That's nice. Gonna make your opponents really think twice about blocking your commander. Chainsaw, 2 mana. When it enters, it deals 3 damage to up to 1 target creature. Whenever 1 or more creatures die, put a rev counter on Chainsaw. Equipped creature gets +X/+0, where X is the number of rev counters. So even just on the enters ability, you're probably going to be able to, take out a creature. So it starts as a +1/+0. But now, as time goes on, your opponents try to block Alexios, they're going to be losing creatures and buffing your commander for you. What's not to love? Hammer of Nazahan, 4 mana, or 4 mana to lay, but when it or another equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach that equipment to target creature you control. That's big. This is a massive effect, and yes, it gives your creature +2/+0 and indestructible, which is great, in and of itself, but then allowing you to cheat those equip costs, you'll love to see it. Scythe Claw, 5 mana. It is a living weapon, so it does create a creature. Equipped creature gets +1/+1. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, that player loses half their life rounded up. That sort of ability, it starts out strong and then it gets weaker as time goes on because that halving is constantly making it weaker, but at least to start, that's great. Masterwork of Ingenuity, you may have it enter the battlefield as a copy of any equipment on the battlefield. So again, if you have some really strong equipment out already, for 1 mana, you could get something else even stronger. Equipped creature, Brotherhood Regalia is our next one. Equipped creature has Ward 2. It's an assassin in addition to its other types, and it can't be blocked. Insane value right there. Again, as our commander gets bigger and bigger, not even having to trample over creatures, it can't be touched. You're just running right through people. You can be taking people out very quickly with that. Quiet as Spike, it's kind of similar to some of the other ones that we've already talked about. Equipped creature has Death Touch, and when it deals combat damage to a player, that player loses half their life rounded up. I can't even pretend to know how to pronounce that. You're going to read it for yourself. But when it enters, attach it to target legendary creature you control, your commander. And equipped creature attacks, tap target creature defending player controls, put a stun counter on it, then deals damage to each opponent equal to the number of tapped creatures that opponent controls. So kind of doing some damage and tapping creatures too, which can be nice. 3 mana Sword of Feast and Famine. You could really throw quite a few swords in here if you really wanted to, because they are quite strong. But equipped creature gets +2/+2, has protection from black and from green, and when it deals combat damage to a player, that player discards a card and you untap all lands you control. So again, this is netting you extra mana every time you attack. Colossal Hammer, equipped creature gets +10/+10 and loses flying. We don't have any flying in this deck. Well, at least Alexios isn't flying, so that doesn't affect us, but does make him massive. Trepidation Blade, 3 mana, when equipped creature attacks, defending player reveals cards from the top of his or her library until he or she reveals a land card. This creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn for each card revealed this way. That player puts revealed cards into her graveyard. Boom. Milling, which is an odd way to go with this, but also making your commander even stronger. Cool. You'll love it. All right, oh, I almost forgot, our lands. We are running almost exclusively basic lands. The deck list, by the way, is in the description below. So if you like this deck, well, like the video, but also you can find the deck list in the description and build it for yourself. The one non-basic land we have is Rogue's Passageway, which for 4 mana can make our commander unblockable, which, as we talked about, is huge with the amount of damage we're going to be dishing out. For our instants and sorceries, we have Scorching Shot, 2 mana deals 5 damage to target creature. 3 mana, target creature for Soulsfire. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to any target. Just some good destructive spells. Reckless Rage, 1 mana. Again, deals damage. Speaking of dealing damage, we have Insult and Injury, a double sorcery type thing. There's a word for it. I don't know what the word is. Insult, damage can't be prevented this turn. If a source you control would deal damage this turn, it deals double that damage instead. And then Injury Aftermath. Injury deals 2 damage to target creature and 2 damage to target player. So again, that's going to be double damage. Love it. Hazardous Blast, 4 mana, deals 1 damage to each creature your opponents control. Creatures your opponents control can't block this turn. So again, making sure that Alexios is able to connect and do quite a bit of damage. And also, you know, again, if your opponent has like a token deck, I say that because some of my friends, really one in particular that I play with quite a bit, loves to do token decks. So that could be a nice little quasi board wipe right there. Same deal for Cosmic Wave. Again, deals 1 damage and your opponent's creatures can't block. Same as before. By Force, destroy X target artifacts. That's going to be a nice little removal spell, again, especially if your opponents have some very pesky artifacts that are causing you trouble. Cool, take them out. Flame Slash deals 4 damage to target creature. Betrayer's Bargain, 2 mana. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a creature or enchantment or pay 2, so you have some flexibility in that cast cost, but it deals 5 damage to target creature. If that creature would die this turn, exile it instead. So, you know, taking out a creature and making sure that it can't come back. Invigorated Rampage, 2 mana, choose 1. Target creature gets +4/+0 and gains trample until end of turn, or 2 target creatures each get +2/+0 and gain trample until end of turn. That's nice. I love those cards that give you that flexibility to really choose what you need for the moment. And then we have Run Amok, 2 mana, target creature gets +3/+3 and gains trample until end of turn. Make your commander even stronger. Dreadmaw's Ire, for 1 mana until end of turn, target attacking creature gets +2/+2 and gains trample. And when this creature deals combat damage to a player, destroy target artifact that player controls. That's, again, great value for us as far as making our commander stronger and destroying an artifact for 1 mana. Now we have a lot of draw spells here so that we can kind of run through our deck and find the pieces that we need to help us win. Cathartic Reunion, 2 mana. When you cast a spell, discard 2 cards, draw 3 cards. Unexpected Windfall, discard a card, draw 2 cards, and create some treasure tokens. Thrill of Possibility, discard a card, draw 2 cards, grab the prize, discard a card, draw 2 cards, and it can do some damage as well. Faithless Looting, draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. Then we have, moving out of card draw, we have Chaos Warp, take care of something pesky like an enchantment, which we don't really have any enchantment destruction, but you could use that to get rid of that. And the final instant we have is kind of off the wall, but Pyroblast, for 1 mana, you can choose one. Either counter target spell if it's blue, or destroy target permanent if it's blue. So yes, this is very selective, but nobody is expecting the red player to be countering spells. So if you're playing against an opponent that's in blue and does something pesky, well shoot, you can turn the tables on them and counter their spell for once. Love to see it. All right, finishing things off, we have our creatures. Bladegraft, Aspirant, equipment spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Always great to save mana where you can. Giant Cindermaw. It's a 4/3 and with trample, and players can't gain life. Again, as we are trying to be very aggro, we're trying to run through our opponents. Pause. We don't want them gaining life. If they have a life gain deck, we don't want them to just get around everything that we are trying to accomplish. Gimli, counter of kills. It's a 4/3 with trample. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, Gimli deals 1 damage to that creature's controller. Excuse me. This is nice because, again, it says controls, so technically your opponents do control Alexios on their turn. So if for some reason he dies in combat, that's still doing damage to him, plus the creatures they control. Most Valuable Slayer. Whenever you attack, target attacking creature gets +1/+0 and gains first strike until end of turn. Just a nice little buff for your commander. Magda, the Hoardmaster. Whenever you commit a crime, create a tap treasure token, and then crimes are targeting opponents, anything they control, and or cards in their graveyard. So we have a few different things, again, that give us the ability to target so we can get treasure tokens out of it. Treasure Nabber, 3 mana. Whenever an opponent taps an artifact for mana, gain control of that artifact until the end of your next turn. That can be kind of nice to basically allow your opponents to lay mana rocks, and then you get to use them. Deadeye Duelist. It's a 1/3 with reach, which is kind of nice. This is more so in our deck, like, yes, you can pay 1, tap it, and deals 1 damage to target opponent, but it's mostly just for that reach. We don't have a lot of flying in our deck, so we want to be able to have some protection there. Enduring Courage. Whenever another creature you control enters, it gets +2/+0 and gains haste until end of turn. That's kind of a nice ability, and if it does get taken out, it comes back as an enchantment. Squee the Immortal. You can cast him from literally anywhere. He just will not stop coming back. So that can be nice, again, just to have in there, have as a nice little piece in case of emergency, in case you need somebody to block with or what have you. Excuse me, I'm dying. Frenzied Saddle Brute. It has haste, and all creatures can attack your opponents and planeswalkers your opponents control as though those creatures had haste. This is a nice piece, again, just to help speed things up. We are moving right along. Your opponents can attack your other opponents, so kind of encouraging them to do that. Marching Dundrone, 2 mana. When it attacks, each player creates a treasure token. This is helping everybody, but it's helping you ramp, and your opponents will probably let it swing through just so that they can get that treasure token and not kill it, because they're going to like it for a while until they get sick of getting punched in the face for 2. Foundry Inspector, 3 mana for a 3/2. Artifact spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Again, that mana reduction, that's going to be really big with all of the equipment that we're laying. And then we have Cavern Horde Dragon. It's 9 mana, but it costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest number of artifacts an opponent controls, so you could get it down for, you know, as low as 2 mana, really. It's a 6/6 with flying, trample, and haste. Doesn't have flash or anything like that, so you do have to play it on your turn. But it does have that haste, that trample, that flying, all that is great. And when it deals combat damage to a player, you can create a treasure token for each artifact that player controls. That's really big. Again, if an opponent has like a bunch of treasure tokens or clues, or, you know, there's so many different artifact creating things, decks out there. Say, for instance, an opponent played a vehicle deck. Well, that's a whole bunch of artifacts that they're going to have out on the board, and now you're just getting treasures for them doing what they're doing. So that's good value. Speaking of artifacts, and I wanted to end this deck build with this card because I love alternate win con. So our final card is Hellkite Tyrant. It is a 6/5 with flying and trample, and when it deals combat damage to a player, gain control of all artifacts that player controls. If you were to just leave it at that, that is an absurd effect. Again, a player doing a bunch of treasures, bunch of vehicles, just an artifact deck in general, you are shutting them down. You are getting all of that value for yourself. But last piece, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 20 or more artifacts, you win the game. In Commander, in Magic the Gathering in general these days, it is not hard to get to 20 artifacts, and especially when you're getting helped out by stealing your opponent's artifacts, you should be able to get to that 20 pretty quickly and win the game that way. So that's a fun little alternate route you can go. But that being said, that is the deck. Let me know if there's any tweaks you would make around this deck, or if this is a deck that you're going to try out for yourself. If there are any other decks that you would like me to build, or if you have a commander that you want me to review, that sort of thing, again, let me know in the comments down below. I'm excited to hear from you guys. If you like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell. You know the deal. Do the YouTube things. And if you enjoyed this deck build, there is going to be another deck build on screen right now that you are probably going to like, because it's just as nasty and just as fun for you. So that being said, I love y'all. I'll see y'all next time.